So long lines are causing headaches at airports across the country, and the president is hoping that ICE deployments will help ease the chaos. Border Czar Tom Homan says agents are ready to step in.
The president's made it clear. He's not going to let America be held hostage anymore. We're going to try to move those lines quicker, give TSA support. They're our brothers and sisters on the DHS. And we simply need to get these officers paid. But until then, the president came up with a great idea. Let's send additional resources to the airports.
Let's bring in Jonathan Fahey, former acting ICE director and former DHS deputy assistant secretary. Kind of ironic, it seems to me, Jonathan. Democrats are holding funding back from TSA because they're angry at the president over past actions of ICE. But ICE is funded, so now they're taking it out on the poor TSA agents, right?
Exactly. That is the irony here that I think is important for the people to know. ICE is being funded fully. These agents are getting paid, and the Democrats are punishing other people that have nothing to do with this issue with ICE whatsoever. So it really is ironic. But I do think, Tom Homan made the point, it is a good move because the current situation cannot stand, because not only we have the 3-hour delays in some places, and we have an economic burden coming to, I think, a lot of, airlines and other types of things. But the most important thing, particularly with what's going on with Iran right now, is we need to have strong security at our airports. And one of the most important things with security is the impression that we are on top of our game and that there are no weaknesses. So adding more law enforcement to the airports during this time will reduce not only the chaos, but also increase our national security. So I think it's a good move. Ultimately, this has to get resolved, but I don't think the president is going to be pushed into a corner by the Democrats, and a lot of their demands really amount to trying to prevent ICE from deporting people.
Yeah, we know that when millions of people just kind of walked into the country under the Biden administration, there are among them people who came from countries like Iran that don't like us very much. And certainly, if the Iranians perceive this to be a time of TSA weakness, they might try to, sneak through and do something, right?
Yeah, you're exactly right. And remember why we're going through all of these lines. A lot of us remember flying before 9/11, and that was we learned that there was a vulnerability that our adversaries, our enemies, saw the vulnerability, took advantage of it, and 3,000 people died. So, yeah, it's very important to show that we're strong, we're on top of our game, and we're not going to let politics put our national security, our public safety at risk. And that's what President Trump is doing here. And then the additional benefit will be alleviate the lines, because we don't want to essentially shut down our economy, prevent people from flying, because this is a major deterrence to this inconvenience. But again, the most important thing is public safety. And we had this murder in Chicago last week by an illegal alien, which just shows how important ICE's core mission of deporting illegal aliens, particularly criminals, is to overall public safety.
So the American people are putting up with these horrific lines at airports, missing flights and so forth. Even airlines are cutting back on their flights because, they know that the people just aren't going to make it on board. The transportation secretary is saying this is all because one side of the aisle is playing politics. Listen.
It's leverage. Democrats want to see long lines at airports as leverage. President Trump's trying to take that leverage away and not make the American people suffer. The president's looking around every corner to make sure the American people don't suffer during the shutdown.
You might have heard in Dana Marie's segment, Hakeem Jeffries, the minority leader in the House, saying that these ICE agents are untrained. And he even suggested, and I'm not kidding for people who are just turning in, he even suggested that ICE agents might kill people in the airports. What do you say to that?
He always tries to seek out the new low for rhetorics, but these are highly trained agents that will make people safer. And the bigger picture is the Democrats really are using this for leverage in such a cynical way, because remember, their beef is with deportations, and they've done everything possible to prevent deportation since the beginning of the Trump administration, and their actions have gotten more and more extreme as President Trump has been successful in his immigration mission. Remember, we had over 2 million people self-deport last year. We have a record low murder rate, and a lot of this has to be attributed to President Trump focus on crime, but also focusing on deporting the most serious criminals. But the Democrats, again, they're using it for leverage, and it's so cynical because they're putting these TSA agents, making these people miss mortgage payments, make them have to go to food pantries, and they're also putting public safety at risk to achieve something they couldn't achieve at the ballot box and haven't been able to achieve in Congress either. So again, it's cynical, but President Trump is doing the right thing because we have to keep our airports safe and keep people flying.
Our expert congressional reporter Chad Pergram told us yesterday that you cannot tie the salaries of members of Congress to the funding that other government employees get, because that would be unconstitutional. But what if you suggested that the staff members of senators and congressmen would not get paid as long as people like TSA agents are not paid? They had to walk into empty offices. That might get their attention. Do you think, Jonathan?
Yeah, I think they should have to suffer somewhat as well, like these members of Congress. And, I hate to say their staffs because they're probably people that are paycheck to paycheck in many respects. But they get to make these decisions. And then the rest of the people, and particularly these TSA agents that are doing a hard job and in many respects a thankless job, and they're living without paychecks. So, yeah, everyone should have to suffer, and particularly these people in Congress that don't seem to particularly care. And they also get these benefits of getting to cut lines at the airport as well, and that should end certainly right away if it's not already.
7 weeks without pay for the TSA so far. Jonathan Fahey, it's good to have you on. Thanks.
Thank you.
Click here to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page to catch our hottest interviews and most compelling analysis. You won't get it anywhere else.